Welcome back to the Future of Figure Skating. My name's Anna Keller, and my guest today is Gary Beacom. Gary was a 1984 Canadian Olympian, and he's continued to perform and compete for more than half a century. Gary teaches seminars around the world, and with his YouTube channel, he shares exercises, challenges, and pieces of choreography, encouraging skaters at all levels to learn good technique and explore the blade. Gary's also interested in equipment and is part of the company Skate Insole, building high-tech insoles for figure skating. He spoke to me last fall from Japan, where he was preparing to compete for the ISU Adult Championship that was about to take place in Calgary. We had some technical issues recording with the video, but the conversation was so rich, I really wanted to share this interview anyway.
Yeah, I'm in Tokyo right now and heading to Calgary on Monday for the ISU adult competition. Are you going?
No, I'm not going. I've never been to the adult competition, but I'd love to go sometime. Are you going to be competing?
Yes, I'm going to be competing, even though I don't have any competitors competing against me in my category. So I'm basically just, competing against myself, or, it's kind of like a show kind of thing to inspire and entertain and whatever. And it's a challenge for me. So it's a real incentive going in a competition, entering into a competition, making that commitment. And then it's sort of, for me at least, it drives me to be my best, or, to prioritize my figure skating more and focus more in on it and become better.
Well, I will definitely look for that. It's exciting to be able to see some of those videos from you and from Midori Ito and some of the people who are like great champions who be able to then still show that what they're able to do in the adult competition is a really cool thing, and it's very inspiring for all of the adult skaters in the world as well.
Oh, yeah, very good. Yeah, we show what we can do and we show what we can't do anymore. But yeah, you're kind of vulnerable in a sense when you go into a competition like this, because you really get a brush with reality. And you've got the audience and people witnessing your confrontation with reality. And so yeah, it can be a little nerve-wracking. I mean, I have so much experience, and I've got the mindset where I don't get that stressed out, actually, hardly at all. Just show up and enjoy the moment and skate, and just rely on my foundation of skills and practice. And yeah, well, we have some limiting factors. Endurance is generally a limiting factor in skating performances, right? How much energy we can put out in that length of time, do we have the strength and power to do all those jumps and land them well and maintain good posture and musicality and focus with the audience and get the step sequence to happen without cheating the loops, rushing things, or scratching too much or getting nervous, and deeper edges are more energy and jumping higher, and so yeah, it's really about, for a performance, one of the things I think is how much energy you can deliver in that short period of time, your body. And if you don't breathe well, and if you haven't trained, and Calgary's at altitude as well.
Yeah.
1,000 meters or something, maybe, I'm thinking something like that. So
no,
yeah. So you practice figure skating yourself, do you?
I do. I do some singles and some pairs has been my journey as an adult skater. I did a little bit as a kid, but I've always been recreational skater, but just somebody who loves it. So I never actually competed as a kid. I've only ever competed as an adult, which yeah, and one of the things that I'm always interested in, because I talk to a lot of people who are in creative worlds of contemporary skating and professional skating, and like what motivates people to compete, and like to what degree competition is like a necessary motivation for progression. And so I think it's really interesting that you're choosing to compete when you have, lots of options. You don't have to do that. But you feel like it brings you something that's different than you'd be getting otherwise.
Yeah, well, as I say, I do like to inspire others. And, when I go into an ice rink, I feel like a big man because I can find my way around pretty
Mhm.
easily in that environment, and I'm pretty good on my feet. So, yeah, so it feels good to go out and skate and do something that I've been practicing for,
Yeah.
more than half a century. And
Yeah.
yeah, um, and I have my YouTube channel now, and I teach
Mhm.
people. I give lessons on my YouTube channel. I post twice a week, and so I'm in a kind of a place in my life where I want to share the sort of the insights that I've acquired and the practices that I believe are important to become a good athlete and figure skater. And so showing up at these events is all part of that. It's
Yeah.
it's it's about the people that are there and who you can meet, and that you haven't seen in a while. It's a way of convening with people more than just on a screen, which is nice sometimes.
Yeah, I've been looking at some of the videos that you've posted of different lessons and tips, and it's really interesting. I really like the formats that you're choosing and the way you're breaking it down into very, really accessible but very interesting content that way. One of the videos that I watched as I was thinking about what I wanted to talk with you about was a video that you did, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 months ago about difficulty. And I was so impressed with how you were challenging yourself to try to find new kinds of difficult clusters and new kinds of difficult spins and spin entries and everything. And I think I would say a lot of fans of skating maybe complain about the sort of the content of like difficult spin entries. They're mostly ugly. Why are we making everyone do this? But watching your video, it kind of got me excited again to think, oh, well, this could be, in the pursuit of trying to find new difficult things, we could end up stumbling upon things that are really interesting as well. It was very cool to see that.
Well, skaters and coaches, I think they want to be a little bit careful about what the judges are going to accept, and so they tend to develop the same difficult entries and even exits now. And so, yeah, we see a lot of copying in figure skating, which is kind of unfortunate. But really, we need to place more confidence in our and give more responsibility to our technical specialists who know their stuff, right? And they can
Mhm.
tell what's difficult. So, even if you haven't seen somebody else do that before, uh, you know, uh, you can create something. Like how you go about creating something. Maybe I take that for granted too much. Like I just improvise a lot when I practice, so every spin and exit is different, anyways. But just for the sort of the majority, knowing how to, even if they decide, well, no, I don't want to copy other skaters, and I want to have my own individuality and my personality. Like, okay, now what? How do I think of something new? Is that like
Yeah.
I'm just is that maybe part of it as well?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the question is would something new be rewarded in the judging system? And then do skaters even, have the practice or the, that understanding of how to come up with something new it's interesting. I was thinking about how there really isn't any reward for originality in the scoring system. It could get kind of rolled into something else, but there is I was watching the break dancing where they have an actual score that's trying to reward that's cool and interesting, and I haven't seen that before, and we don't really have that in skating.
I don't know if it's anywhere in the rule book. Actually, it was in figure skating in the past,
Mm.
being creative, and even with the international judging system that's been in place for more than 2 decades now, there was some mention, or I don't know if it was written down, about creativity, but no, in fact, the judges, the technical specialists have such an overwhelming task to do, to assess according to all these definitions and rules and restrictions and requirements. It's not easy. So I was talking to a technical specialist about this, and the technical specialist just wants you to make it very clear for them. Don't do anything that's too freakish or unusual or outlandish. I just want to be able to identify the cluster and give you credit for it. And so um, that that's also an unfortunate sort of a mindset.
Yeah. Well, and that's the question of, what maybe started out as difficult, if everyone is doing it and practicing it, then it isn't so difficult for people anymore. Like always would think about with that, with this, so many of the spin variations that maybe started out as a difficult thing when they were first done, but if you train them from the time you're a little kid, then you learn them, and they're not necessarily at that remarkable anymore. And so it seems like then the rules keep changing to also try to change in favor of what's difficult.
Yeah, it's the system that we have today. Actually, I don't think it's too bad. It's the way it's implemented that is where the problem is, and I don't know if it's just so complex that it's just not able to be implemented properly. Like we had the previous very simple system where a performance was divided into sort of two elements, as you know, probably the technical merit and the artistic impression. And perfection was considered to be 6.0, as if could be any type of definition of perfection, like any of us ever get there, you know. But yeah, so I personally think that if a judge is really well educated, knows what they're looking for, judge or technical specialist or person who's assessing and a competition or something, they shouldn't need a lot of restrictions and rules to govern their decision making. They should be able to sit back, watch the whole performance, and then come up with some simple assessment. I think maybe the old system was kind of like better maybe in this way, but yeah, but the new system does have, if you look at the component scores and how they're defined, they do encourage and give credit for much of what's not taken advantage of nowadays. Like the judges, when they're evaluating component scores, they look for your musicality, your performance, your presentation, your basic skating skills, which are defined in a particular way. Skating skills includes, the steadiness of your edges, the depth of your edges, how much you're on one foot at a time, whether you're doing a lot of difficult turns and combinations, et cetera, et cetera. Can you accelerate quickly? All of these sorts of things. So if the judging system were more able to be used better, if it was more manageable for judges and technical specialists, it's quite fair. But it doesn't really eliminate bias, which is what it was intended to do after the 2002 Olympic controversy. No, it doesn't eliminate bias. I mean, yeah, it's got some sort of like more numerical, quantitative definitions and things, but overall, like even the assessing of component scores is totally subject to, subjective analysis. and biases, whether they're deliberate or not. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's just a few thoughts on where we've gone.
Yeah, it's been really interesting talking to people both inside and outside of, ISU and judging positions and observing this, that there seems to be, if not a consensus, at least a lot of people who feel like the current system is too complicated, and that it doesn't allow for necessarily, like you're saying, the evaluation of the program as a whole. And I've seen a lot of different approaches to, or ideas proposed for how to improve that, whether it be having separate judging panels, or even I've seen the proposal to have a separate technical and artistic program, and make it be almost like the some of the professional competitions used to be. And so I don't know if any of those things are there's room to move in any of that direction, but it does seem like there's some um, desire to try to find a way to judge a way to judge programs that allows for more artistry and more variety, I suppose.
Yeah, the decline in popularity of figure skating did seem to be a little bit linked to the change of the judging system, although not entirely. Figure
Mhm.
skating was already declining a little bit just slightly before that. It's hard to analyze cause and effect, but is this new complicated judging system, which is kind of like a microcosm of our world. Our world is just becoming more demanding as far as bureaucracies and rules and complexity and restrictions and prohibitions and this and that. And so the figure skating is kind of like um, following the psyche of the times. But yeah, personally, I think it's gone too far, and I'm glad that that the problem is being identified and addressed. So that's encouraging for sure.
You took part in so many of those professional competitions, and there were a lot of experimentation with formats when it came to that. A lot of the different, at least what I've seen of some of the things made for TV programs and different ideas. If you were to put together, what would be an interesting competition or a professional competition today, what would you want it to be like?
Oh, yes, I have to put my thinking cap on for that because I haven't really. I mean, I've touched on sort of my opinion of where figure skating has gone. And yeah, I think ultimately it's not so much a matter of the judging system itself as the education of the judges.
Mm.
So I think, yes, I would say that just one mark, because I personally don't, for me, actually, I've even blurred technical and artistic. To me, it's not separate. For me personally,
Mhm.
you can be limited by your stamina, like we talked, and you can also be limited by your uh, um, you can be limited by your technique
Right.
as far as being able to express your artistic or creative thoughts, and as far as doing the dance, your technique is going to be a limitation. And as you improve your technique, more artistic and creative possibilities become available. So if I were going to have a judged figure skating competition, I would probably want all of those judges to be very, very like have figure skating a daily part of their lives, and
Mm.
so to be just quite involved in it. And I would probably try to get rid of all the rules except, okay, you just give some mark and just one mark for each skater, you know.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I don't know how that scale would be set up. There wouldn't, this perfection's not achievable. So if you really wanted to be kind of like you know, a fundamentalist about it, okay, we have figure skating, which is based on you know, even though it's a real kind of an artificial, become an artificial sport now, it's based on a really fundamental thing. It's not as fundamental as walking or running, but it's, we've been doing it for years, and it's kind of a sort of an, comes from the earth type of idea, you know, put some bone on the bottom of your foot and you can glide down the river for a lot quicker, get to places. And then, you know, with our creative humanity, we can then, you know, play around a little bit and see what kind of like creative things we can develop, and you know, and then setting it to music turns it into a whole art form. This Olympic competition sport is such an art form, but some kind of a hybrid. But yeah, a good judge should be able to just sit back, enjoy the whole performance, and give one mark. I would think that would be kind of, for me, the ideal.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I've been thinking about the way that we often sort of treat skating like there are the people who are good at jumps and there's the people who are good at everything else, when we've somehow made jumps feel like they're kind of artificially disconnected from skating, where of course that's not the case. But it's the way we talk about it. You would think that they were two totally different skill sets.
Yeah, very perspicacious of you. Yes, good observation. Yeah, but many people do think about you know, jumps as being something separate, or jumps is your technical, or jumps, if you can't do the jumps is kind of a prerequisite. If you show us some impressive jumps, then okay, then we'll consider where you're going to be at with your component scores.
Right.
Yeah, we're too jump oriented, and also yeah, the jumps, how you develop your jumping technique uh, using the ice and the blade to the maximum is really, for me, what the beauty of figure skating is. Yes, I agree with you. I would blur the line between jumps and other things that we do. And you know, like, I would certainly not, you know, it makes me cringe when I see skaters doing double axels off the ice.
Mm.
Okay, yeah, maybe there's something to being able to jump and feel the turn, and there maybe is some benefit to that, but the way that we generate rotation on the ice, on a gliding leaning edge, how that leads into automatic rotation, uh, that is something that should be a part of figure skating method, and it's something that we've kind of been losing a little bit, I think.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. When you are working with beginners, and I know I've seen videos that you work with adult skaters or with people who are, you know, at earlier stages, do you feel like there's a sort of minimum mastery of technique that is necessary in order to start to be creative or to play around with what you can do on the ice? Or do you feel like there's a role for creativity and experimentation, even with less skilled skaters, less technically skilled skaters?
Yeah, well, I think that you can develop both in tandem, you know, like, okay, when you first step on the ice, probably your first priority is not going to be being artistic.
Yeah.
And this is something that many skaters make the mistake of letting the artistry overtake them to the point where they, you know, they don't have the foundation of skills, and so they lose their balance and get into awkward positions, and the timing's all not so. Yeah, and even at any levels, I have to be careful myself with the artistic, emotional aspect, the other side of the brain aspect of the performance, because in order to pace yourself and have stamina and to be able to execute difficult moves, you have to be able to think logically as well, somewhat, during a performance. So if you get too emotional and too passionate, it can kind of like it's a challenge to integrate the musicality and the performance element with getting the tricks done. So for sure. But yeah, at a beginner stage, like, you can figure out there's more. Like, I've tried to think about what the best way to progress is for a beginner who has never skated before. Okay, they put their skates on now. Now what? Like, because this is really an important part of learning something. I think is not running before you can crawl, and doing things in the right sequence so that you can progress comfortably without getting frustrated, and so that you build your skills so that you're not trying some skill that you don't have the necessary foundation from, just as far as making the most progress and avoiding pain and injury and frustration. I think that's a really, really important thing. But just an example of what you can do as a real beginner. Let's say you can only skate forwards. That's all really, you can glide, do little baby steps forward and glide a little bit. Well, you can, if there's some music playing on the rink, you can change foot on the beat of the music. And you can double time it or half time it, or you can glide on one foot for 4 counts and glide on the other foot for 4 counts. So even a real beginner can bring some dance into what they're doing and have that side of the fun of skating.
When you're choreographing for yourself and thinking about what you want to skate to, do you start with music and figure out where your choreography with that? Do you start with improvisation on the ice or an idea of what kind of a program you want it to be? What's your process like now?
I suppose I have kind of a sort of a different ways I do things, but I try to avoid habits, and there's no real one way that I would go about choreographing a program. Um, I've I've been going through a lot of transitions in my technique really recently, and so not really, and I've had to deal with some pain and injuries too, and so uh, I think there's something like I'm trying to really get away from planning and trying to adapt to my surroundings and my circumstances and my environment. So uh, I do improvise a lot when I practice. I keep my mind going and I think of new combinations and ways of warming up and ways of using my arms and hands, and how I can use my focus while I'm skating, and all of these types of things. And so if I have my skating skills really good, like for Calgary, I wasn't sure what I would be able to do because I had some knee problem and my forward sit was not. So how do I decide what spin to do? Well, I'm going to decide, like, still haven't decided, but I've narrowed it down a lot, and I'm pretty comfortable, and I've had some practice improvising this program to the music. There's an upside to that. It's going to be fresh. It's going to be in the moment, and it's going to be according to what I feel at the time. And the downside is that, yeah, with choreography, you can be a little bit more exact and intricate and use the music a little, learn the music a little better, and set things. And but yeah, so especially my artistic program for Calgary, it will be almost entirely improvisational.
Wow, that's very cool. Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of skaters about improvisation techniques recently, and I think there's starting to be I think maybe a little bit more of that, the influence that's coming from the dance world into some of what people are trying to bring into single skating and stuff, but trying to think about what the role for improvisation is in figure skating, and it kind of it runs counter a little bit to some of the traditional ways we tend to think about choreography and perfecting something and not varying from it. But I think it's really interesting to see more people trying to incorporate bits of improvised elements into show programs and exhibitions.
Yeah, well, even a program that is thoroughly choreographed and set, every step, every turn connects somehow with the music. Even something like that, a skater to get top performance scores, top marks for that component, would have to have some kind of improvisational aspect to the performance. They can't just look like a robot out there. I think this is important for the audience and the skater as a motivating factor to feel really in the moment, and that you can have some sense of sort of nuanced arm motions, maybe, like and nuanced actions, and depending how the arena is, where the people are seated in the arena, changing your focus maybe in a different direction for parts of the performance. So yeah, I think we can achieve a lot by just paying attention to
Hmm.
the space and the people who are there. And uh, you know, one more thing to say about this too is if we rehearse and practice our number too much to that piece of music, after a length of time, a piece of music kind of becomes stale for us. Like we don't want to hear it anymore as much. It doesn't drive us as much. So
Mhm.
often, like, where is that amount of times that you listen to the music recently, and so that it's going to feel like interesting and inspiring, not just rote. Well, I've heard that so many times. It's kind of like a beautiful painting that you put on the wall. It's just gorgeous, and you marvel at it, and before too long you just walk by it and don't even notice
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that what becomes rote, you don't see it anymore. But it makes sense, everything that you're saying about being in the moment and also about your own preparations, because we never hardly ever have the perfect circumstance where like everything in your body feels great and you had enough sleep and all of the jumps went perfect. It's like all of these, there's always some little variation in the circumstance and how you're feeling in a day. And so it seems like, being able to embrace and incorporate that as much as possible is a skill. It's resiliency.
Yes, and having a real sense of what you're capable of. Like, I don't make a lot of mistakes on jumps because I don't try a jump. I just know I don't feel it, so I'm not going to try it. To have that sense of what you're capable of is I think important. And
Mhm.
you push yourself, okay, but yeah, if you're really competitive in a really important competition, and you want to do your best, yeah, no, it's I got to do this and that and the other thing, and I'm going to get her done, and it's not about my feelings. I want to go out there and do what I plan to do. And yeah, there's the other side of it too. We want to find some kind of balance between those two extremes, uh, being too, because you can control, like, even your sleep patterns, your diet, all of the factors that go into how you stretch and are mobile through your day, how you warm up, how you taper off before a big event, all of these many things, how you manage your conflicts and relationships in your life, and you have good people around you that support you, and that you can be with, and all of these other factors you can control to a certain extent. But no, there's always some curveball that's going to come at you that you want to be able to keep your composure through, and figure out and solve. problem.
You've been able to continue to skate and perform at, a very high level for a long time. And I know that's something that you've, put a lot of thought into how to keep that, longevity as an athlete and as a performer. And is there anything that you would want to share about what you've learned in that pursuit?
I approach my time off the ice. I consider my time off the ice to be as important as my time on the ice. To be a good skater, it's not just like show up at the rink for an hour or two every day, practice your skating, and then go and enjoy the rest of your life. Like my life is more geared towards how I can skate well. I mean, it's my career, it's my profession, it's what I do best. And and it's really quite a challenge, and that's what I enjoy doing. So, yeah, I want to, it's difficult to know what the best diet is. I've experimented with various diets through the years and decades. And yeah, I'm pretty particular about, there's definitely some things we know about food choices that are, some are good and some are bad for your longevity and health. And so, but I've tried to really go in directions to eat really high quality food, Like, for example, good protein, cleansing effect on the body. I don't need to know everything about it to know that it's good for you, and I don't eat it all the time, but I saw these on the shelf, and so, oh yeah, I hadn't had any spirulina and chlorella for a while. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's something that I really feel like there's been a lot more attention to recently, how important nutrition is for skaters. And, I still hear lots of stories of people, really, really not eating terribly for themselves, while they're, teenagers and going through, some of the most intense phases of high performance, but also, going through puberty and all of that at the same time. And it seems like those habits that, if you set up really bad habits at that point, it's going to make it difficult if you try to be healthy for the long term.
Yeah, earlier is better to not get into bad habits. Oh yes, breaking habits is yeah, breaking habits. How much time I spend breaking habits, even though I've, you know, don't like I'm just as tech. I'm thinking about skating bad habits too, but yeah, lifestyle bad habits, things that aren't as conducive. We have addictions to various things, even technology and
Sure.
types of food and drugs and alcohol and yeah, we have all kinds of addictions, things that irrationally we do too much of. And yeah, it's a struggle, but it's you learn after a while that diversity and variety in your life is beneficial and important, and it helps you. So staying away from consuming like the same foods day in day out, and when you go into the grocery store, seeking out the foods that you haven't eaten for a while to increase your variety, so that you make darn sure that you're getting all the various nutrients that you need and that will fuel your body well. Yeah, it's tricky. It's more convenient and less expensive to just eat whatever's available. You know, easy, quick. It's kind of a lifestyle thing. Well, I eat almost entirely organic, actually, and I have been for 35, 40 years or so, mostly organic, actually. And I eat in restaurants. It's not like a hard and fast rule that I absolutely have to follow, but it's mostly what, I do most of my own food preparation. and eat mostly organic. So that's not, it's becoming more available now, but certainly it's been a difficult part of my life, but something that I've considered to be a priority, to eat the very highest quality nutrition that I can find. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's it's so for performance and vitality, and to feel good, and for longevity. Yeah.
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 One of the other things that I was really interested to learn about is that you've been working on modifying your skates and thinking about, how can the equipment that we have of our boots and our blades be as optimal as possible. And is that something that you're still experimenting with? Do you feel like you found like what's good for you at this point?
Well, I learn things continually, and I've continued to learn things. When you're involved with something, you just learn things. If you have an open mind and you want to get better, and actually having a YouTube channel has been a real incentive for me to try to learn things more, because then I have more things I can share with people and teach and inspire and get conversations and dialogues going and whatnot. So yeah, I do learn things, but yeah, as far as equipment, yeah, I have some dreams about equipment. I really think that the piece of metal that juts out the back of the skate is unnecessary and a detriment, and that we should all be skating on dance blades. Well, maybe not all of us. Maybe that for a beginner does add some extra. If you're a little rocky, you're not going to fall backwards quite, you got that extra on the back. But for an accomplished skater, that just really gets in the way. Like for back turns where you go to the very back of the blade to make a nice back turn, whether it's a 3-turn, any back turn, counter rock or whatever. It's just easier to do that turn if you don't have to rock so far. So I would like to have my free skates without that. And I actually bought kind of short blades, and I mounted them on there so I don't have that protrusion. And I also prefer a 3-wheel rather than 4-wheel inline skates for less. I was thinking it'd be cool if you had inline skates, but they wouldn't be inline skates. They would have just one wheel mounted under the toes. So you could be like a ballet dancer on point. And that would be so like not very cumbersome, because not very heavy and just one wheel and stuff there. And you can get in positions where you're crossing your free leg over the other leg. Sometimes those clunky blades and wheels can get in the way. I noticed that that back part of the heel that I'm talking about, it gets scratched and gouged a lot, which shows that I'm clanking my blade against each other sometimes, even somebody as experienced as myself. So that's one thing. I could go on and on about equipment, and I have a very shallow hollow on my sharpening. My sharpening is a very, very shallow hollow. Continue to make that shallower and shallower, so I get really good flow. I don't need. I think I encourage skaters to go shallower on their sharpening hollow. Try it, move in that direction, see how you like it. I think most skaters have too deep a hollow. I think 7/16 is like way too deep, and even 1/2 inch is too deep for anybody. 9/16 okay. 5/8, go at least to 5/8, and I'm at 7/8. And I go pretty deep edges. So, yeah, I'm steady. So when you're steady, you don't have as much. You're not going to slip or lose your balance as easily on a deep edge if you're really, really steady. But unsteady skaters who are more beginner don't tend to go on as deep edges either. So like these factors offset one another. As far as equipment, I think it's very important. Yeah, and I've sharpened skaters blades. I've sharpened blades for skaters, and I've gotten some very, very good feedback from skaters. So it seems like a little bit of a chore sharpening skates, but I really like sharpening skates because, I get the sharpening like real nice and level. I choose the best hollow for the skater. I don't take any more metal off than necessary. I preserve the shape of the rocker radius, and
Mhm.
yeah, it works better. So I think it's quite important. Yeah, good equipment.
Yeah, it's interesting for the first time that I went from the skates that I'd had as a kid into um, using the Adea skates, which I feel like people are very divided about Adeas, but the blade was so much shorter. And I suddenly, when I went to put my old skates back on to go skate on a pond, I felt like, what are these skis on my feet? It felt so odd suddenly to have a blade that was like more than an inch longer and my feet were the same size. So it was very strange feeling to have that.
Yeah, yeah, that's it's hard to say why you felt because the extra length would have just been back at the heel. So only when
Yeah.
you were on the heel you would notice that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was just a combination of factors, but it did feel it felt clunkier. And I think it's partly also just having, the way the ball of my foot was a little closer to the ice and just, a variety of things that were the shift, but it really made me aware of how significant that change was, and that I would always have blamed it as, not want to think about equipment and just assume that my skating wasn't good enough, which for sure is the primary factor in any time I'm having trouble. It's going to be my technique and not my equipment. But it was interesting to think about even how much of a difference the putting on, having a different skate made.
Yeah, well, it's a little thing maybe, but as you get more advanced at something, it becomes uh, the compounding of all the little things like that help give you that edge. And so, yeah, having good equipment is quite important. And if you really want to have supreme good equipment, you will get some nice figure skating insoles in your skates by the Skate Insole Company from
Mhm.
Tokyo. Oh yeah, that's an advertisement. I work for the company.
No,
Yeah, no, I've
that's
been
okay,
helped a lot with having good insoles in my skates. So
for sure.
yeah, that's the top notch solution, and it seems like a little thing maybe, but having good use of the foot
Hmm.
and position of the foot and support for collapsing arches,
Hmm.
that can cause a lot of problems in ankles, knees, hips, back. So this is one of the things as I got getting older. Like when I was younger, I could just rely on testosterone and just go out and do things and recover quickly if I hurt myself. And now I have to be smarter and wiser if I want to continue to do what I do and to stave off pain and injury. So yeah, I don't often plug our insoles, but it just seemed like the right place to
Yeah.
know,
No,
and
I think
and it's what we do, and it can really help skaters, and that's mainly the reason why I give that plug. It's we're busy right now enough as a company, and we're doing fine, but if you don't buy our insoles to support us or help us, you buy the insoles because they're going to really help you with your performance and with your staving off pain.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And it's like I said, it's been really interesting to see some of the different approaches people are trying, to think about how our equipment can not just, help you be a better skater, but also help with staying healthy and being able to have that kind of longevity. So, Gary, I always like to wrap up the podcast and with asking the very broad question, the intentionally broad question of what do you hope for from the future of figure skating?
What do I hope for from the future of figure skating? Figure skating has continued to make progress through my whole involvement in figure skating. So, yeah, in some sense, now we see so many quadruple jumps now, obviously, and we see some very difficult and unusual and creative spins, and we see step sequences unlike that we haven't seen for a long time. And so, yeah, figure skating, I marvel at the progress and also at the stamina that it takes also to put all those goodies into a program. Yeah, but no, I think that figure skating has lost. Yes, it's made progress in all of those ways, but it's also lost something too, which is something that you brought up earlier. The creativity and the personality aspects of performance. So, and seeing figure skating as not just a jump competition, but integrating the skating technique into the jumps, into the musicality of the program, into the technique of the three turns and mohawks that lead into the jumps. So that's really, like what I would like to see for the future of figure skating is that this sport lives up to its name. And, figures were done all on curves and on one foot. And so I would like to see figure skating return to the beauty of what is the essence of figure skating and what makes figure skating possible, which is those nice leaning curves and the physics that is used to bring jumps and spins and rotation out of those curves. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. There's something about returning and finding all that new inspiration from the roots and from those basics.
Yeah, that's right. We don't compete in figures anymore, but that doesn't mean that we can't. We still do brackets, counters, rockers, loops. We still do all the same things that we did when we spent more time practicing figures than we did practicing free skating, or at least as much. And figures were worth in competition originally like 75%, 60, 50, eventually, got rid of the figures, but so much to have learned from them, and so much of that technique can be applied to get better grade of execution for your step sequences and to help set up those jumps and spins better.
Well, thank you so much, Gary. I really enjoyed getting to talk with you a little bit, and I'm looking forward to seeing your performance in Calgary and continuing to follow your YouTube channel and everything that you're doing.
Well, thank you, Anna. It was nice to meet you today and have this discussion. And let's keep in touch, and we'll do it again in the future.
Thanks again to Gary for speaking with me. You can find the transcript and the links to the things that we talked about in the show notes and description. You can learn more about Gary at garybeacom.com or at his YouTube channel at garybeacom-figureskater. You can reach me with comments or suggestions by email at fsfuturepodcast@gmail.com or on Instagram and Blue Sky at FutureFSPodcast. If you appreciate the podcast, you can also support my work with the tip jar at futureoffigureskating.pinecast.co. Remember to subscribe to The Future of Figure Skating on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your friends.